I'm sure Matt's reaction here.
We're in action, mid-combo. Go, Matt, go. I'm serious.
Well, I mean, I can't just go. I can't
Yes,
just
you
let
can.
out what I was going to say without the preceding context. It'll make no
Okay,
sense.
preceding context is, so I guess I wasn't choosing my words as carefully as I should have for this particular person. And this person did not want me to confuse people new to human design with my terminology. But that was not the group that we were discussing things in. It was people who were very far advanced in their experiment. And she said, because I take money from people, I should know this. I should have this knowledge.
Okay.
So
Okay.
blast off.
And so I have a couple of questions just to make sure we get all of the like necessary pieces of context on the table. So you were talking about mental projector authority, and you mentioned it as being soundboarding, right?
I mentioned that term as part. I understand that's not what it's the be all end all term for it.
Don't worry. Don't worry about what you know. Like you refer to
Yeah.
our authority as soundboarding, right?
I was talking about it and I used the term soundboarding. Yes.
Okay. What is the accurate term? Like what is like, because on Jovian's own website, when I look at my chart, it tells me that my authority is soundboarding. So
this girl said, oh,
Here, I have
this person said, like, what was it? Like
I'll tell you.
Indirect, external, something.
Let me tell you. They said normalize that soundboarding isn't an authority, and environment as an authority doesn't exist. And so Janelle responds, what authority do mental and self projectors have then? Just nothing? And this person responded, you really should know the answer to these questions before starting a business helping other mental projectors using human design.
Basically, what I was trying to get across is there's a lot of ways that we talk about the same thing in design. There's a lot of different terms. And I understand that some terms are more correct and some terms may be more misleading to others. But I just was wanting to put out there that I think that rather than calling it no authority or just giving them nothing, that maybe we can give them some of the pieces and parts that we've experimented with as mental projectors and as the third line. And I gotta say, it just got really serious. Yeah, Matt's face is my favorite. It got very serious. I was trying to be
I'm really angry. That's like I want to knife fight this person. Like I'm saying that like on recording. Like what a bitch.
Listen.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a bitch.
I know, especially because Janelle was genuinely asking a question. Like what
still, I'm saying that like that is the authority that is put out there by the authority on human design. That is what Jovian has said our authority is. I don't agree with it. I agree with the perspective of the other. I completely admonish their approach. Their approach is, they're a horrible person. Like I wouldn't interact with that individual again. Like that's where discernment comes in. This is a person who is so they have spiritual ego that is out of control. That is no way to treat another person.
Yeah. When she talked about my business, I was like,
for the duration of, I'm like more in bitterness now than I can remember. I'm like more bitter than like burnt garlic. So like this might be a spicy podcast.
Good.
But
I like spicy, Matt.
That is really aggravating that somebody would treat you that way.
Isn't that insane?
And I hope they hear me call them a bitch. They deserve to hear that.
Well, it ended up being all right near the end. We all kind of, because it wasn't just me and this other person. There was a third that was kind of involved. It was their thing we were commenting on. And this person did kind of say, I see everybody's side, or I see that this person was trying to show that they had an open mind. But I think that it was something very similar to what you were mentioning before, Shannon. Hi, by the way, this is Human Design Hot Topics with Janelle and Rebeka, Shannon and Matt. You were talking about how the words that we choose and the way that we're describing human design can be very much judged in a way that just doesn't seem helpful to me.
Mm-mm.
And I understand that there can be a lot of misleading information and that's not good. But I guess because the third line in me is like, well, I need to experiment with it anyway. So I don't care if it's right or wrong or good or bad information. I have to do it for myself. And I know that's not everybody, but that's very much where I come from, is let me see for myself if this is credible or not, you know?
Yeah. I think I just want to give a little background where we started. So I spent 6 years in a PhD program studying literature and rhetoric and discourse. And so a lot of my attention lately has been around, oh, and full transparency, I didn't complete my PhD. I'm not a doctor. I had a no and was in deep frustration and left. So, but anyway, but I can't turn that off. You know, I see these things. I see these patterns in communication. I see power structures in communication. And I've been really attentive to the ways in which within our discourse community, which within this discourse community of human design, the structures, the linguistic and rhetorical structures that are in place, and the ways in which people within the community use language to police one another and to establish hierarchy and to distribute power and control among different tribes within this larger community. I'm seeing a lot of very tribal politics happening within the larger discourse community, people using language to separate themselves from others and to place themselves on, to like stratify power using particular language so that you can, for example, I'm seeing people who have listened to a lot of IHDS lectures with Raw, using his intonation or, you know, using his style and delivery, using his phrases like what to do, or, you know, or not, you know, this or not, you know, the this and that people throwing these out as markers to establish their power and their position, to show which tribe of the community they belong to, and using these sorts of things to push down other people, to discount other people, especially when we're talking about keynoting and the ways in which some people have mutated the system and developed their own keynotes, right? These are the language is forming structures within our community, and people are, whether they're consciously doing it or not, using the language to establish dominance and power and control over each other, to establish difference. Yeah, so that's kind of the background of where we started in this conversation. And Janelle just happened to have this like perfect example of how that was happening in her real life. So awesome. And so I'll put that out there.
I think that's so cool.
I know. I think this is an important discussion to have, I got to say, because there is a lot of this happening. There's a lot of separation happening inside of this and the ego that comes into it. And I think because I am purely collective and only have the channel curiosity, I tend to come at things with a little more curiosity, and I tend to want to ask a lot of questions. I would have probably done the same thing in that conversation, Janelle, where like I'm asking questions because I need to understand where you're actually coming from before I can meet you and have a discussion. That's how I approach it. But it seems like there was this hard stop of like, well, I've studied all these things. Like, I've studied too, bitch. I'm a one line with fear motivation.
I've studied
Let's
nothing,
go.
so
Let's go.
My innocence motivation was like, I'm not start nothing.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, leave me alone.
But, and I want to hear Matt's perspective.
I've read Matt's perspective on his face this whole time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna look at this through a bit of a different lens. Shannon used the terminology discourse community, which I think is something that does exist in the human design world. I think it's something for the human design world at large to aspire to. to be like a true discourse community. I think that there are tribes, to use other terminologies used earlier, tribes within the human design community that are bordering on, or maybe even just beyond, like cultish behavior, because the two things are very, very similar. So all cults are discourse communities. But the thing that differentiates between a discourse community and a cult is the dogmatic policing aspect of it. And we are, in some aspects and with some personalities in human design, far beyond discourse community and far into cult-like behavior. And I think I talk about that a lot on my own personal account. I talk about, like, at some point, once the background frequency shifts, we're going to have to decondition from our deconditioning process that, the human design, experiment as we know it right now is a conditioning factor. There's no way to get out of that. We are living in a time of, of like amplified fascism. And when I say fascism, I think that probably half the audience is going to think that I'm talking about Republicans, and I'm not. I'm talking about people. Like we just call it different things, but fascism, like, we should really understand what the terminology means. We've been siloed into these echo chambers, and like these gang-like behaviors, over the course of the last couple of decades, slowly amplifying, like when Newt Gingrich, like introduced this whole new way of doing politics, bipartisan politics died. The opponent is the embodiment of evil, and everything they believe is wrong. And like this idea of like self-righteousness and like my like people like me are right, everyone else is wrong, has been indoctrinated into us as a society. And there's no escaping that, unless you have awareness, and unless you really are truly committed to self-trust and self-validation and true self-love. If you are looking for validation in the external world, you have to abide by those rules of those tribes or clans or, perspectives. It's the only way to feel any sort of faux satisfaction, success, surprise, peace, is to just basically go with the gang. So we all wear red, we all wear blue, where I'm a Crip, I'm a Blood, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm this. And I can't be a Republican and also be pro-choice, because my tribe will kill me for that. What the fuck are we doing? Seriously, like this is the science of differentiation. If you want to make up your own keywords and those keywords resonate with people, like, is that not better than like not allowing people to have any of the benefit of the system? Like, what are we doing? Why have we become so mean to one another? I don't get it, That's about all I have to say on that, but I just wish people would relax. I wish people would like get out of their heads, and like stop thinking that knowledge is power. Knowledge isn't power. Understanding is power. Wisdom is power. Knowledge is useless without understanding. Absolutely useless. In fact, probably more harmful. Like Carl Jung, he talks about intellectualism in such a, and this is an academic, this is a pure true thinking, individual, talks about like how we rush to intellectualism to avoid direct experience. And I see that time and time again. I worked in the yoga industry for, and, worked and taught in the yoga industry for 22 years. And it's the same thing there. It's like, oh, I have a PhD in Sanskrit. I have an encyclopedic knowledge of the Yoga Sutras. I studied with this teacher, and but you're an asshole. You're a manipulative, narcissistic, self-aggrandizing piece of shit. And you also know a lot about the subject matter that you teach. Good for you. get out of my life, you know, like, it doesn't hold water, you know, like we're here to be individuated aspects of the totality of everything, right? And you're either like representing like the true essence of source, or you're pretending to be something that you aren't. Because what I can guarantee you is that source is definitely not an elitist snob. I know that. I know that at my core, you know, but you know, when I look out, I see more and more people trying to like, they want to be self-righteous. They want to make sure that like that their cohort of humanity is in the right, and automatically that makes everyone else in the wrong, when I really don't run across too many things that are dual, that are one or the other. It's very, very rare. I mean, like, and if you look at the wheel on the mandala, like there's not a whole lot of dualism on that mandala. There's only 2 hexagrams that are all yang, all yin. Everything else is some sort of blended aspect of something. So, you know, like if like I am pro-choice as a person, you know, but like I'm not just like I see the moral argument against it. I can understand that. Like I don't know if I would choose to do that, but I don't think that it's my right to tell other people that they can't. Like
And it's the same with design.
We don't have nuanced conversation anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not, we're like, people are eager to be told what to believe, and then they just go on with their lives, you know, like with whatever, you know, and typically they only want to be told what they want to believe. And if they can find anyone that will do that, anyone that will validate their bias, oh, well, this person is an authority, they know what they're talking about, and they think I'm right, and then they just go on with their life. Sorry for being so freaking bitter, but like, my God.
It's all good. I love the way that you're talking about this and you're being real about how you feel. And also it seems like a lot of times when certain people talk about design, they talk about it like a static thing that's not changing. Just because this person shared it with us, and whatever people want to say about Rod, him sharing with us and what he shared and who was involved and who wasn't involved, and it's like, well, it's not a static thing that's not changing. And we also have this other thing that kind of comes into play, which is the transits, which changes everything around all the time, whether you want it to or not. So, oh no, I did the or not thing. I wasn't trying to. I probably listened to like one raw lecture, so I wasn't trying to. But I'm saying we have really no choice when it comes to the transits, and we talked about that a little bit last time, and I loved how you explained it to me, Matt, how the planetary transits, the energy of that is, I don't know if stronger was the right word, but when we talked about that versus being an aura with somebody else.
I remember correctly, it's pure, and yeah.
It's not, it doesn't care about you. It doesn't give a shit about you. That's what you said. And I was like, you're totally right. And I think that has a lot to do with the no choice part. Is things are happening in the world and all around you that you have no power over, or maybe you just don't care enough to have power over that thing. That's the other thing, is if you don't care enough to want to change something, or if it doesn't matter to you to change something, then it's going to do its thing, because you're not going to stop it. You know what I mean? Like we don't care about everything. Like we don't have the energy or the time to change everything, or to decide, oh, I don't like this, so I'm going to make it this way. I don't know where I'm going exactly with this, but basically what I'm trying to say is shit happens and we have no choice.
Yeah, of course. I mean, and it's also, you know, like, I mean, we have to be aware of the fact that there are other people in the world as well, right? And when we control, if we sought to, if we were endeavoring to control every aspect of our life, I mean, that's violent in a sense, you know, because like what we're doing is we're not allowing other people to have free will. We're not allowing other people to make the bit of decisions that they can. We're not allowing other people to have their own personal authority. We're not allowed, like, and you wouldn't want that anyway. You wouldn't want to be able to just control every outcome of your life. It would get so boring so fast. Like you would have no surprise. And I totally believe that, our similarities as mental projectors to reflectors, like surprise and disappointment are huge parts of my, experience. And I think anybody that's open, is probably going to be more like more prone to being surprised and disappointed and whatnot. But without those two polarities, there's really nothing. It's all just one note and it's all just really boring, so yeah, the whole I wrote this entire, I got really annoyed at there's one account on Instagram that only posts source material, and it was Rod talking about no choice, like breaking it down, and the circuitous logic of his argument about no choice, and then and then offering up type strategy and authority as so much better. Like it makes no sense. Like, okay, so I have no choice, but I have authority. Well, what do I use my authority for?
Nothing. You
If
have no choice. This is totally where I get stuck with this too.
And why does strategy matter if I have no choice? So, can we just pack it in and just just allow life to just hit us? No, it's because, there's correctness and incorrectness. And it's correctness and incorrectness for both us and the other, right? I mean, we do have, there's we had 2 1-3s on the call. So this whole transpersonal thing may be a little harder, but Janelle and I understand that there are other people in the world, and we, the way that we behave does really impact them. And and that it's a full circle. It comes all back around, so our type strategy and authority is an interesting concept. Do I think that it gets more focus than it deserves? Sure, absolutely. I mean, it got so reduced at the very end that it was almost like there was an attempt to make a religion of some sort, and I'm using the word religion very specifically, not esoteric system, which is what I think that the original intent of of human design was to be. It was I think once you start to recognize that you have an opportunity to make money, well, marketing is all about differentiation. It's all about what makes my thing better than the competition. And I think that we saw a distinct evolution of that through time. If you check in on what the early lectures look like versus the latter lectures, plus you're dealing with a manifester who over time really needed some peace, but didn't give that to themselves. And so it's just just repetition of the, the same, and an audience that just couldn't get it, at the time. I don't think humanity's ready for human design right now. So to think about what the early 90s and 2000s were I mean, we were super dense in this consumption reality that that doesn't even feel correct anymore. I can feel us leaving it, and see us leaving it in rapid order. But the human mind and the collective agreement wasn't prepared for this kind of information. But you have to start, and Ra was really clear about that. I have a lot of respect for Ra, I really do. And he was, there's a piece of source material that Shannon shared with me that really helped to embolden that respect. Is that I mean, he talks about it's like me homogenizing you. I think I talked about this on the last podcast, and then he goes on and he's it's one of those things where you can tell that a person is actually aware, because he's basically insulting the audience, telling them what he's doing, and knowing at the same time that they're not going to understand what he's talking about for another 10, 15 years. But he said, I have to homogenize you because I have to get a critical mass of individuals that can carry this information forward, so that when humanity really does need it, it'll already be established. You don't You don't worry about like a building burning down once the fire has started. That building is lost. You need that fire department has to be ready to go. They need to have all of their training, all of their supplies, all of the equipment. There have to be fire hydrants. There have to be all of the infrastructure that you need to fight a fire long before the fire starts. If we tried to organize a fire company when a fire started, we would never ever defeat a fire. The fire would win 100% of the time. So like, I mean, it's important, all of that stuff. And I think really honestly get out of all of this infighting and policing and all of that stuff, because it's really just a waste of human energy. And it also, like, we're coming from a really oppressive past. And so there's a lot of people that are carrying a lot of shame, a lot of indoctrination, especially religious indoctrination. If you're from, like a Eurocentric country like the United States, that people are, like starting to like rejigger their relationship with that indoctrination. And it's just not helpful to be that mean to one another. Like tolerance is really, is really helpful. Like understanding that, like, like really our highest call as a collective is to find unity and diversity. And that is at the core of human design, is that like I can hold my own truth and you can hold your own truth. And just because we don't agree, it doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you distinct who you are.
And that's what I totally agree with you on that, because it drives me crazy that we're having these arguments inside of human design. I'm like, you realize this is the science of differentiation. Like the whole point is that we're different people. Why are you yelling at me instead of trying to understand who I am? This makes zero sense. And it goes along with what Shannon was saying beforehand too, just the homogenization of this system. It's wildly fascinating.
And as mental projectors, I feel like we kind of get that whole feeling, because I mean, we have said it forever that as we're projectors, but some stuff just doesn't, if like, as Matt says, a lot of time there's a reflector aspect, like there's a
hybrid thing happening.
Yeah. And when I first, after I was learned that I was a projector and I was learning about projectors for a while, some stuff just I felt like I was doing it wrong. I was like, am I doing my experiment wrong? Because some of this stuff doesn't seem correct. And I'm wondering if a lot of other specific types, because projectors have the most diverse amount of authorities. So there's a lot of different things going on there. And I wonder if a lot of the other authorities feel that too, like reading about projectors in general rather than splenic projectors, or mental projectors, you might be like, well, this just doesn't, because if you're defined spleen and that's your authority, then waiting for the invitation is like, what the fuck?
What channel is defining that spleen, right? Like that matters.
Even more specific.
Like if you have somebody that has the 4426, that splenic authority is going to be different than, say, like whatever the well is up to the throat. I don't know. I try not to know any of
1648. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a different spleen. It's it's two different experiences. Same thing goes for the sacral. Like like if you're root to sacral, I'm sure that's a completely different experience than if you're like like spleen to sacral. It's so like we're all really different. These are all, and to Shannon's earlier point, like I think it's time to start having the conversation of differentiation. I think that we're approaching that point. And we know from like hexagram 64, right, which is like, again, like right, like that defines like my personality. It's the only definition I have on the on that side, is that we know that things get really disordered like right at the end. Like we know that. Wait, 64 is before completion, right? Or after completion, sorry. 63, I have the 4 too, so like I sometimes get a little haywire on that. But 63 is before completion, and it talks very specifically about like things are going to get really, really dicey right before like right before the ending. And I think that we're starting to see that. Like we're starting to see some fragmentation, starting to like see all of that things. But it's also like we can't separate the human design community from the larger community. And like these thematics they exist everywhere. They exist in the workplace, they exist at home, they exist in political discourse, everything is getting very polarized. We've been getting polarized since like 2012-ish, like deeply polarized, to a dangerous degree. But like that is the powder keg that needs to like just blast everything apart so that we can, like put it all back together.
What's
Yeah.
happening, Shannon?
Yeah, I want to kind of pull some of these threads together. Because what you're saying right now seems really relevant to the transits, and to, the 2027 mutation in general. But like right now, we all have the educational channel of initiation between Venus in the 25 and the North Node in the 51. And we're about to have a solar eclipse in gate 51 shock. And then after that, Neptune is going to move into the 25, and we're going to have for a full month, everyone will have the educational channel of initiation between Neptune and the North Node. And then Neptune will stay in the 25 until 2027. And as all the other planets rotate in and out of the 51, we'll have it again and again and again and again. So this is really a period of initiation leading into 2027 and through 2027. So I really see this as an initiating period into that mutation and that change from the cross of planning to the cross of the sleeping phoenix. But what I find the most interesting about this channel is that, there's a circuit or a path through the body graph called the mystical way. And this channel within that mystical way is the channel where the individual separates from the tribe. And so we're in the will center, heart center, will center. And we've got this channel of community 3740, going to the solar plexus. And then if we follow that upwards, we have the 5125 going into the G center, into the self, right? And so we're at this junction of the tribe on one end and the self on the other end. And we've got all the dogmatic, ideological structures of the tribe. And then we've got source, universal love, self, our inner compass on the other side. And and this channel is often referred to as the shaman or the priestess. And it's about taking that leap into the void, into the unknown, of leaving, the security and the safety of the tribe and its rituals and its structures and its dogma, and like jumping into the void where you don't really know if you can survive, like you don't really know what you're going to meet. And I just did a call with a bunch of my personal spiritual community and my friend Amajine, and we went through the eclipse and its meaning and stuff. And so many people on the call were feeling this pull into themselves, away from the tribe, feeling this tension of the ways in which the tribe is restricting their individuality, or the ways in which they're compromising themselves to serve the tribe or to adhere to the rules of the tribe. And so as this, channel will be in play for all of us leading up to this, mutation, and especially in this upcoming month after the eclipse, I'm really seeing this, especially with Neptune being a planet that loves to dissolve things, right? Like, how can we get to this sense of source by dissolving, some of the boundaries or the separation, that we see between ourselves and others. And so, I'm seeing this also as a time where there's this great potential to shock people into dissolving some of the tribal structures of human design, and some of these ways in which we've put rules and mental strategies and rigid concepts around how we can find our own inner authority, what that is, like what these things even are. And this is really a time I see where we can go, like, leap into the void of true experimentation and true like exploration of, okay, what is actually happening in me when I'm experimenting, going beyond the 4 types, going beyond the idea that authority has to be a hierarchy and that there aren't just specific intelligences of every center, right? The idea that you can develop every center, that you can integrate, that you're actually the whole thing and not just your definition. So these are some of the ideas that are really exciting for me right now in this transit period. And I feel like we've kind of been talking about all of these things here and there. Yeah.
That is really cool. Thank you for unpacking that, because it was really making me think how that initiation channel is peeking in and out. It's like really kind of doing this dance with us over the next couple of years, because as we record this right now, the sun is in gate 51, the north node is in gate 51, and Chiron is in gate 51. And then on Monday, when we have the eclipse, the moon will join it in gate 51. And then after all of that, when Mercury is going retrograde, it retrogrades into gate 51 and goes all the way through and then stations direct and comes back. So we have a lot of 51 energy happening coming up, especially this month. And then with 25 in there, like, oh my gosh. And this last time that this channel was defined, it really hit me. So I'm a little nervous, not gonna lie, but I think it'll be good in the long run.
Yeah.
Well, the awareness piece of it is amazing, that you're already thinking about it and contemplating how it's going to go while knowing that you can't do anything about it.
I'm really curious, Rebeka. I know you've been doing research and like exploring Chiron, and I'm wondering if you have anything to share around what you see around the role of Chiron in this eclipse or at this time, especially as it's in this channel of initiation.
That's a good question. Michelle and I did a couple podcast episodes about gate 51 because there's a lot happening. But as far as Chiron's super interesting because just real quick for anybody who might not know, it just really represents the wound we come in with. So Janelle's like me.
Is it it's not a planet, is it? What is it?
It is. Okay, here's what's interesting. It has been classified as an asteroid, a comet, and a minor planet. So
it's a thing in the universe, like a
yes, and
floating
it's
around. Okay.
So it's in between Saturn and Uranus. Originally, it was just discovered in 1977. Originally, they thought it was part of the Kuiper Belt, which is why it was an asteroid. They figured out what it was made of. Anyway, so now it's gone through a whole transition, and they're thinking now it's maybe a minor planet, just like Pluto. But astrologically, it is assigned to our wound that we come into this life with. So it's like this journey that we've had. We come in, like mine is gate 23, right? So speaking my truth and being honest about what I know. Terrifying, which is why it's
Like,
helpful
how
to
do
be
you know
around Matt. And I can look at yours later, Janelle.
Okay, good. Thanks.
And so that's kind of my journey, right? I've shut myself down my whole life of being able to talk. And so that's part of my specific journey. But when we're looking at it collectively, it's very interesting actually, because you look at the USA chart, like the chart of the United States, and their Chiron is in gate 51. So Chiron is currently USA is currently experiencing its Chiron return and its Pluto return, which is part of why things are so insane right now. And so with this Chiron and this wound and this healing aspect coming and like being conjunct with the North Node and all of the things, it's just really highlighting what we need to heal. That's what comes to me. Like what is not working that needs to die. And it will be a little shocking because like Matt said, sometimes the craziness has to happen right before the calm. It's like the death rattle. That's what came to me. Like there's all this craziness. There's all this like trying so desperately to hold on, but this is the way we've always done it. And so it's almost like there has to be a shock in order to initiate us into something new, or else people are going to hold on. And yeah, like I feel like the boomers are holding on to so much stuff. Like, get out of Congress already, please.
Oh man, I love
So
it.
those are my thoughts. How did that feel for you?
It was good. I liked learning about Chiron because every time anyone talks about it, I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I'll just let them keep talking about it. I know I I think that's cool. And I love that you guys look at the transit so far in advance, because I look at it like within the week or within the next couple of weeks or whatever. And the fact that y'all like look at it so far ahead and are aware of the pattern. Oh my, like, I don't know how you fit that in your head, Shannon. I really don't, because I don't know. I mean, I get it that it interests you and that's why it can stay up there, but man, to notice the patterns and to keep going with it and being like, oh, look, this is going to come around here. And this, when this happened, this, like, it's just like, I'm very much what fits in at this moment, and then everything else slides out. I don't know what that is about my designer, if that's just me as a human person, which it could be.
I mean, you have right brain, right mind, so
I feel like a lot of times innocence too doesn't have the capacity to, like,
yeah.
how does innocence hold on? It doesn't really, it's not supposed to hold on to anything. So maybe I'm just supposed to, I always just thought I had a terrible memory. And then I was just, because when we've talked about it, especially my childhood with you, I've talked about it, there's huge majority of it I just don't remember very well. And I don't know if that's a normal thing for people, but I have a very, like, my short-term memory is decent, but anything, I have to write so much stuff down, and it's just very, I feel like stuff just slides out. I guess that's the words I'm looking for, is I feel like things just like slide out and I have no control.
That's
How do
okay.
how do you feel about that?
I used to really bother me, and I used to think that there's something, like, I had to try harder to remember things. Like, I need to do like brain exercises and try to remember stuff without writing it down. Try to memorize this thing without writing it down. And that would cause me so much anxiety that I was like, why don't you just write it down? Like, that's easier. And so I write a lot of stuff down, and I don't know. I don't care, as I don't have as much that I feel like it is important for me to remember.
Good.
Because it's all put in front of you. I guess maybe because technology and the internet is what it is. Like, who needs to remember anything? You just are like, oh, there's the answer. I didn't need to remember that because it's all here. And I think maybe it's not a good thing, but I think it's a product of being able to answer all of your questions without having to remember anything. Terrible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
funny.
Well, good. I mean, because I could hear some of the old like, like comparison stuff, and like sort of like old wishing that you could, like have the energy to do that and so on. But that's not, like, other people do that. Other people hold that down. That's how we work in a person.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. And then when I met Rebeka, that's totally what happened. Is I was jealous of her abilities, and I was like, as a human being who's interested in human design, I should be able to do this. I should be able to keep it all in here. And then the more I learned about my design, I was like, actually, this is just a waste of my energy. And it gives me a lot of anxiety trying to do something that you're not interested in or really wanting to do, but thinking that you have to do it or should do it is very tiring and a big waste of time and your energy. And yeah, exactly. Rebeka has helped me a lot with that particular conditioning. It's kind of lifted a whole weight off my shoulders. And that's why I was able to say to you, I don't know what Chiron is. Before, I would have been like, I'm not going to say I don't know what it is, because then I'll sound stupid. But I was like, hey, I need to know what this is. Tell me what it is. And I'm cool because I know there's people listening that don't know what it is, and now they do.
Yeah.
Remind me again of what costume you wear. You're a 3/6?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, you're here to be the embodiment of how to be, not what to know and what to remember or any of that stuff. Like, like how to be a person that likes what you like. That's it. That's all you have to do. Like, you're free. Like, you are free from all of that stuff. That stuff doesn't matter. You were just told that it did.
Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah. Well, and to top it off, she has the incarnation cross of the Sphinx right in her G center. So there is so much about being. And so, like me, I've got majority one lines and fear motivation. I'm here to know stuff. Like, that's kind of boring, but that's what I'm here to do. So it's really cool
It's
that you
not
can.
boring. I think it's amazing when you speak, like when you were telling me about Chiron, the way you share information, like, is very pleasing to the ear, and also, like, you never talk to somebody like you know more than them, or they should know this, or wow, how can I, like you talk to people in a way that's like, I get to tell you this, like I'm the person that gets to give you this information. That's so exciting for me. And so that's part of the reason why I really like getting information from you, is because I know you're enjoying giving it, and you can tell on my face when I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Cool. Now I know something. And I think you do that when you give information to everybody, and with your students too. I think it's probably why you're so popular, is because you're excited to give the information. You're not like, you don't know this.
Let me quote some source material to you and make you feel really bad about yourself.
Even when you quote source material, you do it in a way that's like either funny or just like, this is what it is. This is what Ra said. Like,
yeah,
from
for me,
the
I feel
context
like,
of Ra.
yes, I feel like I really wanted to know, I wanted to know the source material, but I like being able to be the in-between of like, yes, here's what happened, here's how Ross said it, and let's remember the filter is coming through. And I firmly believe, I said this before, but I don't think it was on air. I firmly believe that this system wants to have its own relationship with each individual person. So how does this resonate with you? What's going on? And even the changing the keynotes, like Matt was saying before, like everybody's on their own journey. They're meant to have their own relationship. Not everybody is going to dig deep and be a total nerd about human design. They're not meant to. They don't have the capacity for it. So who cares? If all they learn is that they need to trust their gut and that's it, and that can change their life. Like, who cares?
Yeah. Who cares if it's not the correct terminology, or if it doesn't encompass the entire sacral authority with just those
Right.
3 words.
Right.
If it helps, then it helps, you know?
Some people do. And that's circling all the way back to the beginning. Some people really care too much.
They
And
do.
it just feels like a waste of energy. So
They do.
good on you, people. All right. Well, I'm going to check in with everybody and see if there's anything else that you'd like to say, but I'm going to cut this intentionally short-ish, because I really like this whole dynamic and I hope that we can continue to do it. So I want to cliffhanger the people and let them know that we have so much more to say. But for now, closing thoughts from anybody who wants to go. I put them on the spot.
We're all like, who's gonna go first? Shannon, I feel like something's coming through for you.
Well, I mean, on the cliffhanger thing, I will just say that I have a lot I want to unpack about type, strategy, and authority, and the idea of source material. The idea that Raw was the source and not the voice was the source. Yeah, so I will just leave that I am feeling extra spicy around the marketing and packaging of concepts and human design, and I am eager to discuss that in the future.
That's perfect. I'm excited that 36 is leaving Neptune, right? Is that what's happening? Very soon, for a chunk of time before it comes back. A little chunk of time.
Yeah.
As I put in my Instagram, I put undefined 36 girl summer or something.
I saw
I
that.
love
That's
that.
funny.
I was so excited because and it's only because you brought it up, Matt. Like, you were like, I wonder how that's gonna feel. I was like, is it gonna feel different? I don't know. Because I bet it's not. It's been such a long time. It's like 2.5 years.
Yeah, I really want you to pay attention to see if that spontaneous crying goes away.
I don't know if it will.
Super interested. If it
I've been
just
doing this my whole life.
Yeah, I know, but like, but that planet's been squatting there like the majority of your life, right?
I don't know. I think, how long has it been? It's been like 2.5 years that it's been there. But like I said, I'm wondering if it also matters because if I'm around people who are defined emotionally, or if the people I'm around, if we define it emotionally. Because like I said, I've literally always done this, but I've never allowed it. As like a child or as a pre-teen, this was embarrassing. So I wouldn't talk through it. I would just sit here like this, trying to like make it stop instead of talking and letting it go, because that was super embarrassing for me. And now I just don't care. Because it happens all the time. It's like, if people know me and are familiar with me in my life, they know that this happens and they're not worried about it. So, oh well, I don't worry about it either. But it would be cool to see if anything changes, anything, because it's been forever, a good chunk of my human design experiment that it has been defined, but then it comes back, right? In like October or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes back.
But not on the same planet, in a different planet? I think so.
Neptune
No.
retrogrades back into the 36 again from October of 2024 till February of 2025. So, and then it's out of the 36. But you know, the thing is that you have a hanging 35. So everything moves, you know, the moon moves into the 36 once a month, the sun, Mercury,
that's what I'm interesting.
Venus,
I'm like, maybe I'll feel maybe the other planets will change the flavor of it that has been dulled down because this has been here for such a long period of time. It does feel exciting. I just think that the transits are so interesting when you look at them in this way, because even if I don't notice it, like even if it changes and I'm like, oh, nothing changed or nothing happened or whatever, just the awareness of it is a change and is a noticing. And I think that's going to be my cliffhanger, is by the time this episode comes out, we'll have already happened. And then when we do the next one, we'll give some gate 36 updates.
I like it.
Anything else anyone wants to say?
Anything on your mind, Matt?
I mean, I think I said a lot. I think I said a lot more than I thought I was going to say. I mean, my closing thoughts are just, you know, just try to be kind, you know, like just try to be kind, not nice. Kindness and niceness are different things. The nicest people I know are the most hateful, mean, cruel people in the world. Kindness is, you know, is a completely different thing. Be kind to like yourself, and be kind to other people. Allow other people to, you know, to like truly really experiment with their life. Allow people to not know things, you know, like that's kindness, you know. That seems to be the overarching theme of our discussion. And, you know, like what my hope for, you know, this knowledge that has found us and, you know, has like embedded itself into our, you know, into our awareness for a period of time, you know, like can really manifest is, it's clear that the way that we've existed up until now is, you know, is coming to a conclusion. It was never sustainable. We're going to have to make some adjustments. And, you know, and it's going to be a difficult process to, you know, like sort of unlearn the old ways, and to, you know, and to envision and learn a new way. And I think that this system and the community that's, you know, that's given it some, you know, some of their attention, has an opportunity to really thought lead quite a bit on that front, on like how to be an individual, how to, you know, like how to actually trust yourself, to be able to be valid, you know, like self-validated, to learn how to be interdependent with one another instead of codependent on the other, is you know, like our themes that I think that human design is, you know, like the mechanical aspect of human design, and the way that the, you know, that the synthesis comes together, the individual components of the synthesis, especially the I Ching, you know, like gives us a lot of insight into, you know, like how time progresses in cycles, and how time, you know, matures each individual, at their own unique timing, and that we're not supposed to unfold together, you know, like we're unfolding in the way that we unfold, that, you know, like we don't need to be consistent. You know, all throughout our life, we don't need to be held accountable to who we were a minute ago, let alone a year or a decade ago. That at any given moment when our authority speaks, we can change, and that we can be different. And we need to allow people the grace to be able to change as they will, you know, like that's no choice. We have no choice in the fact that change is going to happen. People are going to change. We're going to change. Our relationships are going to change. And it just is, it's not good or bad. It's not like things are not binary, it's more complicated.
Mhm.
I would encourage people to think a little bit more, instead of like, I mean, like, truth, what is truth? Other than the fact that it changes. Y'all remember when like butter was bad for you? Like it would kill you? That's not what they're saying anymore. It's just one real petty example of how science evolves. Things change, people change. Our lot, like tomorrow will be different than today. And like as long as we try to hold on to and fix things into one way of being, life is gonna suck for no reason. Like, I mean, like we just gotta relax and allow it to just happen. And sometimes that's really, really difficult. I'm personally going through a very difficult time in my life right now. So in a lot of ways, like this is me talking to myself, but I'm also aware of the fact that, like we are interconnected, like as much as we might not want to, acknowledge that, there, especially at the subconscious level, there is a deep level of interconnectivity. What's happening to me is happening to the other, and what's happening to the other is happening to me. And yeah, we have to become more conscious of the way we utilize energy. Like and start to rationalize and reconceptualize what we've done under the cross of planning. I mean, like there's not a day that goes by that I don't remember this one fact that I don't even remember where I became aware of it. But like the average Western 13-year-old, the average Western teenager uses as much energy as 6 families in India. Not 6 people, 6 families. And India tends to have larger families than the West. So we're talking about call it 12 people. Oh, wait, no, 12 times 6. 6 times 4 is what?
24.
Huh?
24.
Yeah. So I have a 13-year-old son, and like, yeah, he's using the same amount of energy as 24 other people.
Wow.
And so like I think there's some sobering up to do on the horizon. And it's going to require a lot of grace, and it's going to require a lot of kindness, and a lot of unlearning all of this, like mean, like cruel gang shit that we have adopted as normal. That we have to, like, if we want the world to change for the better, we have to change for the better. It's critical. So those are my closing thoughts, and I think the general thematics that I tried to bring to this conversation. And I'm sorry for calling that lady a bitch if she made it all the way to the end and she did listen to this, but like,
Oh, she's probably
okay.
not listening.
Yeah.
well,
It's okay.
I
We
would be
understand.
surprised if she knew that that this podcast existed and she actually listened to it. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's been this is beneath her.
Yay, I'm glad that everybody had a good time, and I'm glad that we're going to do this again because, like I said, this whole 4-way pod thing has been
Quad
really
pod.
fun. Quad pod. Anytime I say it, I want to like sing it, so I try not to say it every time. Do you have any closing thoughts, Rebeka?
I think everything y'all said was just so beautiful. Thank you, Shannon and Matt, for showing up and sharing and giving us so much to ponder on. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah. Be kind, listeners. We will
Be
catch you
kind,
later.
show some grace. I love it. Bye.